Gaming. While most of the hardware on board was addressed in the prior video with things like port selection, which you can go ahead and check out using the card above, this video is a look at daily performance. I'm gonna build up to gaming, and so we're starting off with keyboard and trackpad. To me, the keyboard has a decent feel. Keys are sturdy enough, but there is a mushy feel to them for sure. Adjusting from a mechanical keyboard will take some time to get used to, but once you're there, it shouldn't be any issue. There's a decent bit of satisfaction when using the keyboard, but it does require a higher actuation force. As for the trackpad, it's fairly standard when it comes to Acer. Its responsiveness is great given Microsoft's precision touch drivers, and clicks are good too. On the overall, you do get good customization from Acer with things like RGB lighting, and having that extra number pad may be useful for a lot of people. But if you're serious about gaming, I definitely recommend both an external mouse and a keyboard. Something that is good enough though is the display. The 144Hz Full HD panel gets the job done when it comes to gaming. It's not meant for multimedia consumption, but you can still use it very easily for that. It has decent contrast being an IPS LCD, and viewing angles are good too. It's also got a modern feel and look to it, especially with the smaller bezels, although it's nothing groundbreaking. The same can be said about the speakers on board, with DTS audio doing a decent job, but headphones were my go-to preference when using the laptop on a regular basis. For a gaming laptop, the chassis is not too shabby, and inside you're looking at an Intel Core i7-10750H processor. In this review unit, you also get up to 20GB of RAM and two 256GB SSD drives. But in retail units, which you'll find in the UAE, you'll see configurations with either 16 or 24GB of RAM and 1TB of SSD storage. We've also got Nvidia's GeForce RTX 2060 on board with 6GB of dedicated VRAM and things like ray tracing, and I've done quite a few tests to gauge performance. On screen, you'll see examples from a bunch of games running very respectable frame rates at moderately high settings too, which you will also be able to see on screen with the gameplay. While less demanding games like Fall Guys or Valorant push the CPU up to an average of about 62 degrees Celsius, more intense games push it much further. For instance, Hyperscape clocks around an 82 degree Celsius average CPU temperature, whereas Call of Duty Warzone takes that up to 87 degrees Celsius. There's also some throttling that goes on behind the scenes, which doesn't seem to impact performance noticeably when you're playing, but with Acer's Turbo Boost mode on, it is reduced to a significant extent. I'm fairly certain the laptop will do well to play most titles at similar settings, but you'll just need to be cautious about temperatures, which do get a bit higher than ideal. Especially towards the top of the machine, things can get hot, so just keep that in mind. Also, the fan noise can get in the way of serious gaming sessions, so that's something you should keep in mind as well. The other use case for laptops like this is graphics and video. I've made a lot of videos on this thing, a lot of graphics too, and the laptop seems to handle just about everything, from 4K 60fps playback to handling some intense Premiere Pro timelines with some expected stutter here and there, but not bad by any means. And yes, there were crashes, but it also comes down to how Adobe's optimized the software, which is just atrocious for any laptop in general. A standard 5-minute video rendered in 4K resolution takes about 4 minutes and 45 seconds, which is quite impressive to say the least. From a creation standpoint, the laptop should also be fine as long as you use a dongle for your SD card slot. I've also run some conventional benchmarks for reference and tested memory speeds, and quite frankly, all of that seems pretty good. Even did Blender animation and rendering, and that was handled perfectly fine by the laptop as well. Multitasking on the laptop is great too, with it able to push two screens quite comfortably, and there's no jarring complaint about the machine as such. Perhaps slightly better thermal performance would have been nice to see, but that aside, the Predator Helios 300 comes good on a number of different fronts. As for the battery life, you're looking at about 3 to 4 hours of usage on this thing at decent brightness, and that falls to about 1 to 2 hours at maximum if you are gaming.